The challenge for today, should you accept it, is the Cork Battenburg. Let's get cracking and see if I can reproduce it. Now I'm going to add all the dry ingredients. We have got self-raising flour, we have brown sugar, I've some cocoa powder, bread soda and a little pinch of baking powder. Don't worry, I will have all the ingredients listed in the recipe shortly. Now we're going to give the dry ingredients a whisk just to make sure they're all combined. Now that's all combined, I'm now going to add the wet ingredients. I have got some oil with a little splash of vanilla. In that goes. I have got some coffee. In that goes. Some buttermilk. And finally 2 beautiful free-range eggs. We're just going to give it a whisk until it's completely combined. Just keep whisking until all the lumps have disappeared. Now have a beautiful glossy batter ready to pour into the tin. I have lined a 12 by 8 tin and I'm just going to pour the batter straight in. This is a fantastic tray bake. So you're really getting 2 recipes for the one recipe we're doing today. So in goes the chocolate batter into the tray. I have a preheated oven behind me at 180. In it goes for 30 minutes. Now for step 2, we're going to do the vanilla base for the Battenburg. So we've got butter, we've got sugar, and we've got a little bit of vanilla extract. So this is almost again like your vanilla tray bake. Whisk that until your butter and sugar are combined. Scrape down the bowl just before you add the flour. I know it sounds crazy, but I add the flour next. This is to prevent the gluten from overworking and ending up with a dense cake. So in goes all my self-raising flour. It will look like a cookie dough, don't panic, and we will add the eggs next. Now as you can see, it looks like a cookie dough, and that's where I'm gonna add our eggs. Beautiful Valley View Farm, only about 10 minutes away from me. Gorgeous free-range eggs. Look at that yellow color. And just combine until that batter is mixed. I've scraped down the bowl. I don't want any lumps and bumps. Lovely smooth mixture in less than a minute. I'm just going to pour the batter into the tin and just level it out with the palette knife. So you're basically making a vanilla tray bake, and we've done a chocolate tray bake. Independently, they're both perfect as a dessert themselves, but we are going to try and reproduce the Cork Battenburg. Make sure you get all the batter out, nothing left for Mr. Manners. In it goes, 12 by 8, exactly the same size tin as our chocolate. Behind me, in for 20 to 25 minutes this time. Stage 3, stay with me. I'm going to do a buttercream filling. Now, if you look at the Battenburg, it does look like as if it has a very sweetened, almost marshmallow fluff. I'm not going to do the marshmallow fluff because you might lose the will to live. We're going to do a very quick vanilla buttercream to sandwich it all together. Now I'm going to keep beating this butter for about 10 minutes before I add my icing sugar. So just think of it 2 to 1. So there's 250 grams of salted butter, and then there's 500 grams of icing sugar. I'm going to add that to my butter once it's been beaten for at least 10 minutes. Now after the 10 minutes, I've added the icing sugar, and I'm just going to add a tablespoon at a time, 2 tablespoons of hot boiled water. I don't use milk because if you use milk, it doesn't give an extended shelf life to your buttercream. So about 2 tablespoons, possibly even 3 tablespoons of boiled water, but start with 2 and you'll know after a few minutes. Now a little tip, if you want to get your buttercream, because you can see the yellow hue, a bit like the Milky Bar kid, if you add a tiny bit of purple to your buttercream, you can see how little I'm adding. It just knocks off that yellow hue to that buttercream. Don't go mad, put the amount of colour on a toothpick before adding, or else you'll end up with purple buttercream. Now you can actually see the difference from your butter to your buttercream when it's been whipped, and the teeniest bit of purple added to your buttercream mix. I'm just going to add a tiny bit of vanilla paste just to enhance that vanilla. Whoop! flavouring the buttercream. Jazz hands, we have got our chocolate tray bake and we have got our Madeira cake ready to rock and roll. Now the next stage, I am just going to cut the sponge in half. Yum! Same with the Victoria sponge. So straight down the centre. Now as you can see, I haven't put on the apricot glaze for this one because we're going to be stacking the cakes. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add on one portion some buttercream. Now I don't want to add too much buttercream yet. I'm just going to put a little bit at the start and work my way down to the end of the sponge. Now the next layer, I'm just going to get some of our Madeira and layer it on top. Gently press it down. Don't worry about it squidging out the sides. Now, some apricot glaze and repeat. You really are only talking a couple of tablespoons of buttercream, so don't go mad. I'm going to spread this right to the end of the sponge. Just keep repeating until you have a mountain of cake. Before I even attempt to carve or even smother any more buttercream on this, this needs to go into the fridge for at least 30 minutes to chill. This is the fun bit now, where you take your life in your own hands. We have got our cake chilled. So you are going to find the center line of this long sponge and you're going to cut at an angle. So think of a roof of a house. So you're going to find the halfway and then you're going to carve at a 45-degree angle. So we'll start small first, and any of these delicious cut-offs will be devoured by everyone. Now take this nice and slowly, because as you're doing, you still have that center point, but I'm just taking a little cake off at a time to create that triangular shape. Every time I cut, I wipe my knife back again until we get that triangle shape. Now this is why it's so important to have that sponge chilled. There's absolutely no way that sponge could even carve if you had a very soft sponge, so it needs to be chilled. So you've got the top and the base, and the next is just to take a trim from the bottom of the cake. You could even see, it start to take in shape. Don't forget, clean as you go. These cake scraps are fantastic. So I have the Russian log recipe, and I've also got the donkey's gudge recipe, and I can put those along with this post so nothing goes to waste. Now with the remaining buttercream, I'm going to coat a very thin layer. That is to help the chocolate not only stick to the cake, but any of the lumps and bumps that are visible on the sponge now will be hidden by the buttercream before we put on the chocolate. Again, I have washed hands. Washed hands are better than gloved hands. These hands are constantly in water, and of course this cake is for me, myself and I. This would be considered one slice, right? Next thing you need to do is just have a little bit of card. This could be cardboard of any sort. What I've done is I've just cut it to shape, so that I'm going to transfer the pyramid onto the card. It'll make it much easier when you're pouring the melted chocolate. It'll prevent it sticking from the grills on the rack. I feel there should be a drum roll. This is the last bit. So I'm going to stand to the side and I'm just going to put some Belgian chocolate. Now this is Calabo Belgian chocolate. We're going very posh. I'm going to stop for a second, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to do the first layer, the first skin of chocolate over the slightly chilled cake. Turn it around just to get a coating before we put on the signature grooves. And of course, the most important bit is the heel, or the end of the cake. This is where everyone fights over the heel of the cake. Keep going, does not have to be perfect. And just repeat. Now the next thing I'm going to use is just a comb. Now, obviously not a comb, but this is an icing comb. And all I'm going to do is give it that wiggle wiggle. And any lumps and bumps, it won't make any difference whatsoever. We're going very posh with our chocolate. And you've got two sizes as well. And again, just give it a wiggle, 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 wiggle. Now, you'll also notice when you temper your chocolate, it's already beginning to set. So you can be relatively quick when you're doing this. Whoop. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. There's only the Cork way, the Cork way. I have used my cake slicer. You can use a very large knife, but just be careful after your work. I can transfer it onto a board. Give it a bit of an angle. Let's get sprig of holly. Sprig of holly like, because it's a Cork Battenburg. So tiny bit of holly, some red sugar paste berries. Holy God, that's some marathon. I hope you enjoy. I will slice and show you what the centre's like. And now for the reveal. Oh my God, blood, sweat and tears went into this cake. So this bit everyone's going to fight over because it's the corner bit. Let's have a look. So we have got a big, huge slab. Now I do think we have the shop bought, and then we have the Made with Love, Laboured of Love, Tears of a Unicorn, Cork Battenburg. The recipe will be written up. I hope you try it. Follow the instructions. It's magic.